All right, so this question gives us the equation, right? The approximate distance he drove, y, in miles during the race could be modeled by y equals 5x, where x is the time in hours after the start of the race. Which graph best represents this relationship? Well, he clearly drove more miles as the race kept going, so this should be a positive slope graph, so we can cross this one out. That graph isn't going to work. And then, of course, at the start of the race, he was at 0, right? He had driven 0 miles. So do you see how this one starts, the graph starts above x equals 0, or at x equals 0, it starts at what? Y equals 8 or something. And it should start at 0, 0. So this one is out as well. Now let's look at the other two. This one initially got me because my rule of thumb is angle or lines at 45-degree angles like this one usually have a slope of 1, right? So I was like, oh, well, I'm looking for a slope of 5x. So this is a steeper slope. So I initially thought that's a better one. But look at the axes. The axes are not in the same, they're not, 1-to-1, right? The y-axis goes 2, 4, 6, 8. The x-axis goes 2, 4, 6, 8, and the y-axis is in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, right? So we've got different units on each axis. So now let's pick a point and figure out which one is right. So let's see if, well, we could, since the x-axis goes in units of 2, let's have x equals 2. So at x equals 2, y will be 5 times 2, or 10, right? So the point 210 has to be on the graph. And we can see on the first one, 210 is on the graph. And on the next one, or on the last one, choice D, 2 is up at 20, right? So that doesn't work. So this one doesn't work. So A has to be our right answer. So, so what are the takeaways? Notice the slope of the graph. Notice if the graph starts at 0, 0. Cross out graphs that don't work. You can use that rule of thumb that lines at 45 degrees angle have a slope of 1, which is true when the x and the y axes are in the same units, right? They go by 1s and 2s and 3s, right? When they're incrementing in the same amount. But when they're not, all bets are off, as we saw in this one. So when they have different, when you're not sure, I don't know, could it be graph A? Could it be graph D? Just choose a point, make sure it matches right, make sure you can plug it into the formula. It'll tell you, right, if x is 2, what's y, and then see which point is on the graph.